From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Eleanor Oldroyd and welcome to Stumped. I'm joined by Jim Maxwell for the ABC in Sydney and Charu Sharma is in Bangalore for Akashvani. Well, the IPL returns this week for its 19th edition and Royal Challengers Bengaluru start as the defending champions for the first time in their history. Who will be the standout stars and who is going to win? And could it be MS Dhoni's final season in the competition? So, Charu, we'll start with you. Does the excitement around the IPL grow every year?
Well, yes, it does. I mean, that's what one would imagine if one sees the media, because it's just full of IPL news like no other sport even exists on the globe. There's been a lot of comment and chatter about which team is perhaps the best, who is likely to be the new star or the new set of stars, and everything else associated with the IPL in India, including, of course, overseas players and their importance. But some of the headlines, as it were, have all been hogged. We talked about that a little later with the purchase of two of the teams. So that's kind of really caught the imagination of the public. The figures that they've all been bought for these two teams are mind-boggling. Not that they were not expected. In fact, they would have expected even more. But these are serious figures, and the Indian sporting industry, well, the IPL, cannot help but be very proud of what it's created.
Well, we'll talk about the opening game and all the excitement around that very shortly, but maybe some mixed feelings, Charu, where you are, because the RCB returned to the Chinnaswamy Stadium, and that was where a stampede tragically killed 11 people in June last year. Fans celebrating winning the title outside the arena. So what is the feeling around the city about that return to the stadium?
Well, Ali, I'm glad you asked. And of course, it'll never go away, that tragedy. So first, right off the bat, our condolences once again, and hearts go out to the families that were deeply and virtually permanently affected by that tragedy. But, public memory, except for the families that are directly involved, tends to be somewhat short. So all I can say is that there's immense excitement. Congratulations to the Karnataka State Cricket Association to begin with, because they've walked a very clever kind of line here, a very hard-working line, where they've got the IPL back to the Chinnaswamy Stadium, which took quite a bit of maneuvering, of course, a lot of improvement in facilities as well, and yet they had to take the sentiments of the 11 who were unfortunate in their minds. And what they have done is something quite appropriate. They've created a special plaque now at the outside of the stadium where the 11 will be permanently remembered. And of course, they will now block 11 seats. It's not quite clear exactly where, in the memory of the 11 that lost their lives. So they've done everything they possibly could to keep that in mind, to keep the sentiments in mind, and yet, of course, still handle the excitement of getting the IPL back to Chinnaswamy Stadium. It's been a crazy roller coaster for RCB as well, because they finally won the title. Then, of course, it was a tragedy, and they all had to take a back seat for many, many months, and now they're back again. And all I can say is that the one thing that you shouldn't try and do is try and get a ticket to that opening match. Impossible.
Well, RCB host the tournament opener against Sunrisers Hyderabad, and I'm delighted to say former IPL player and now commentator Abhinav Mukund joins us now. Abhinav, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you with us. How special is it to play, first of all, in the IPL?
It's a fun time, right? Like when the IPL season begins itself, it's genuinely an exciting time for all stakeholders involved, not only the players, the owners, representatives, and I think it's the summer in India where everyone truly gets excited about. And I'm sure your eminent panelists who covered the media and broadcasting world for over 50, 60 years now, I must say, and these guys are as excited as me about the season ahead.
And RCB, one of your former teams, of course. This is unfamiliar territory, isn't it, for them as defending champions? Does this take pressure off, or does it add more pressure to them?
I think it's actually a monkey lifted off their back. I think RCB have been waiting to get their hands on that trophy for the last 18 years, and it was almost a running joke in the cricketing circles. When would they lift the trophy? I'm sure Charu would be aware of it, where it was a phrase, it was a slogan that was coined in Kannada where they said, "This year is our year," and that year never kept coming, and the year finally came for RCB. I personally feel, both for the fans, for the players, and for that one man who's played for 18 years, I think this is a big weight lifted off of their shoulders completely, and I think they'll be raring to go back to back.
A quick one about Virat Abhinav, because he's obviously been such a mega star for so many years. What kind of Virat do you think we're going to see this year in the IPL?
I think a scary one's going to come up this year because there's no pressure at all. He's won everything. T20 World Cup, check. He's won the ODI World Cup. IPL's also done. He's retired from a couple of formats of international cricket. I think it's going to be a scary version of him. One format, Virat Kohli, where he really wants to come out and say, listen, I'm still the king of the jungle. So I have a feeling that he's going to come straight off the blocks very, very fast. And I'm really excited to see him back playing for RCB.
Cameron Green, I mean, talk about pressure. And I remember this when I was out in Australia with you, it was announced that he had become the most expensive overseas player in IPL history when he signed for Kolkata Knight Riders. So, I mean, what kind of form is he in at the moment, first of all?
Well, his last Shield game for Western Australia, he made runs. But really, that's the first performance of any note for some time. He's had a very, very ordinary summer given the star billing that Cameron Green has been having for a few years now. He's really underperformed. And on the evidence of what we've seen, Bo Webster should push him out of the test team come the 2 matches in August. But we will see. Perhaps he can regain form somehow in the IPL, but he's been unconvincing and he lost confidence. And that's not what Australia wants to see at the moment. With an ageing side in all forms of the game, where is Cameron Green going to fit into the team?
And do you think, Abhinav, that actually that pressure, does it add more pressure to have a tag like the most expensive ever in the IPL?
It's a hit or miss, Eleanor, because it's always been that. If you look at the history of the IPL, whoever's been paid the big bucks, there have been very, very few, including the top stars of international cricket who have managed to handle that pressure of the big payday. So it's going to come to how Cameron Green is mentally up for the challenge, because he's going to be the sole focus of attention. KKR have multifold problems with their bowling lineup. Cam Green has to bowl. Is he fit to bowl? There are multiple questions to be answered there. But the overall aspect of the pressure, because even if you look at the Indian players, where Rishabh Pant was the highest paid player and he was under a lot of pressure last year, but Shreyas Iyer took it well. He was the second highest and he still took it well. So it's up to his personality and how he figures he's going to handle that pressure, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and from that mental point of view as well, Jim, there were reports that he had a bit of a tetchy exchange, didn't he, with a reporter in Australia during one, I think actually that game where he'd scored some runs in the Sheffield Shield. He said, apparently, "Why are you out to get me?" So this is not a great sign with such a big tournament ahead.
He's been a very composed, calm player so far, but he did have a bad moment there, and he got ticked off by the WA manager over that one because he had agreed to go up for the chat. And before that even got to the sensitive part of going over his poor performances, he just chipped in. So clearly his confidence has been shaken in recent times, and he's anxious, obviously, to try and put some performances on the board that re-establish his reputation. But at the moment, up here, upstairs, he's just suffering a bit. So hopefully he can get his act together and become the player that we thought he would a year or two ago and start dominating again. But it's going to be fascinating to watch it, particularly as it's been mentioned that he needs to bowl. And we're not convinced at the moment that his body is going to allow him to bowl very effectively either. So that's a problem.
I think this IPL, we will find out how thick a skin does Cameron Green have, because the media is going to be after him. There's going to be all sorts of, balls per million or wickets per million or runs per million, all that sort of thing. We'll see how that goes. Abhinav, thanks so much for joining us on Stuff. Great to see you here. Let's talk about the other big Is it even a mystery? Big talking point of the IPL. Your former teammate and captain and superhero is still there for Chennai Super Kings. I mean, if we start talking about Dhoni, of course, we'll take all program long or maybe the whole week. But give us your thoughts on what he should be doing, and of course, his whole relevance to CSK being a former teammate of his.
Look, I had the opportunity to actually fly to Chennai for the last couple of weeks, and the excitement is brewing, and he's back. And it's almost like every season where people keep asking the same question: Is he going to? Is this his last one? And it's gone on for a few years now, Charu. And to be fair, I think they are looking for the future ahead. They've gotten a replacement keeper who is by no means a small one. He's the player of the tournament in the World Cup. So for me, MS Dhoni, I think this year is going to be one of those years where he quietly withdraws into the sideline. That's exactly what I think will be. He will still play. And by all the reports coming in from Chennai, Sanju Samson's not donned the keeping gloves as much. So he is fielding, he's doing a lot of catching practice, which only means one thing: MS will still be behind the stumps. And I think it's up to him I think he will decide when he goes, but I have a feeling he's going to finish 2026 and then only take a call.
Please give us an insight or two into the man himself, his character, his personality.
It hurts him. After being part of such a legacy side, which won 5 titles, the CSK side has been one team that has never qualified into the playoffs for 2 back-to-back years, forget even 1 year. So this was a side that qualified a lot into the finals. And I think he's borne the brunt of it a lot himself. And that's the personality trait I think you're looking for, Charu. I don't think he wants to let go when the franchise is at its possible lowest. They finished 10th place last season, and he doesn't want to go like that. He wants to go where he leaves the franchise in a better place. All of these younger players coming in, and that's exactly what CSK have opted for, fresh blood this year. So they are looking at him as more as a father figure who can guide and mentor these youngsters. But I don't think that can happen from outside the field. He wants it to happen from inside, ensure that things are running smoothly, and then he will take the call.
There was an event in Chennai this week, wasn't there, Charu, where he actually joked, MS Dhoni, that he might play till he's 60. I mean, he's 44 now, so it's only 16 more years.
Well, I mean, he has a nice sense of humor, that's for sure. He's very comfortable with the media. Over the years, he's learned how to deal with them and so on and so forth. And Mr. Srinivasan, who owns CSK, bless his soul, he's done so much for cricket in India, and he's a good friend of mine. He would be happy if Dhoni plays till he's 60 or 70, because he'll never let Dhoni go. He's going to be involved in CSK in one capacity or the other forever. But it really, as a fan of MSD, and who isn't, it was difficult to see him play the kind of cricket he is now for the team. If he would have played the mentor role for the last couple of years, I'm sure he can sit in a dugout and inspire everybody and maybe tactically lead or be a great help to the official coach. But what's his role in the team? It's all a little confusing, and I think even Steve Fleming was kind of little lost for words about how to describe Dhoni's presence in the team. Great for inspiration, but he really should, probably now say that, listen, there's so many other younger people, and the best thing to do is allow them to express themselves rather than have me go in there and try and win every match. Because from Dhoni, the expectations are so high, Ellie. You go into the field, everybody wants a 6 every ball. And if he's not going to be able to deliver that, then, why is he in there? So it's time for him to ride into the CSK sunset as a mentor or whatever.
Can we talk about Sanju Samson for a moment? Where's he going to fit into it all then?
Let me jump in on that, and I'll tell you why. Because for a very long time, Chennai Super Kings, it's from the southern state of Tamil Nadu, right? So they have had a homegrown or someone who's very close to the region, as close as Sanju Samson. So even before he donned the yellow, and when he played for India against Zimbabwe in the World Cup game, which was covering live, there was a huge roar in the stadium. They've embraced him like anything else. So from even a branding or a marketing perspective, it's a great call for CSK. He's possibly in the peak of his powers with the bat. He can keep wickets. He's a guy who can assist Rituraj Gaikwad on the field if need be. So it all looks like it is reason enough for MS to walk into the sunset. But Sanju Samson has become a fan favorite already.
Let's talk about matters on the field for Rajasthan Royals. They're going to have a real powerhouse at the top of the order, Abhinav, with Yashasvi Jaiswal and Vaibhav Suryavanshi. I mean, he was 14 last year, wasn't he? Suryavanshi, ridiculous. And he burst onto the scene. He made such an impact. But, I mean, he's not an unknown quantity this year, I suppose you could say. But how impressed have you been by him? And can he do it again?
I think this kid is incredible, guys. He's 15 now, and he was the most searched cricketer on Google last year. And that shows the amount of pressure that a 15-year-old kid could be under. Second season syndrome, I'm not bothered about it as much, because this kid, whatever interviews he comes out and gives, he says, I want to hit it. I want to hit the ball from ball one. I take strike, I whack the ball. And it's actually made Yashasvi Jaiswal a senior pro when he's not. Yashasvi is still about 25, 26, and we're calling him old now in terms of the IPL because of a 10-year age gap. This is one of the most exciting opening pairings in the IPL. A lot of people were talking about Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma a couple of years ago. This, to me, this year will be the most watched one, because Suryavanshi, if he gets going, this guy is going to whack it. We saw glimpses of it in the IPL last year, in the Under-19 World Cup final, where India got to 400 against England. And this boy is here to stay. I just hope that this season goes as well as last season. He plays all 14 games and gets 500, 600 runs.
Well, it's very interesting this week as well to see from an opening point of view. We mentioned England, and Ben Duckett has decided that he's not going to play in the IPL. He wants to regain his form for England after a really disappointing Ashes. And that means that he's going to miss out on around $200,000, the deal that he signed with Delhi Capitals. And he's going to have a 3-year ban potentially from the IPL as well. I mean, I don't know what you make of that, Abhinav. Can you understand his decision?
I absolutely don't, because when you put yourself in the auction and when you've registered for the IPL, I understand you have to get your priorities right. I understand that England do have a hectic test match plan, and he wants to get back into the test match unit, which is fair enough. But what you're doing essentially is a team or a franchise is building a squad around you, and suddenly when you're out, there are no other replacements, or there are big drop-offs to that. My only question to all of this is, it's a hypothetical one. What if he had been paid $1 million? Would he have come to the IPL? That is a question that I would like to ask. I think it's still a very relevant question. You want to stay back, you want to focus on your test match form, then you shouldn't put your name into the IPL auction in the first place. And that's where I stand with this. The ban is perfectly fine, because the next time you come back into the mini auctions, we've seen inflated prices for these players because there is a supply-demand issue. So that's where the ban is there, so that a lot of players or a lot of teams don't have to go for these players in these mini auctions. But I don't understand why players pull out in the 11th hour. It could have happened much earlier. Ashes finished in January. You could have announced it even back then. But it's come 5 days before the IPL, and I think that's let a lot of teams down.
Quick final word, very final word from our Indian colleagues, I think particularly. Who's going to win it, Charu?
Oh, boy. I suspect it's the usual suspects. So if that happens, it'll all be very disappointing. I'm always for a new winner. I think a league is only worth its weight if there's a new winner every once in a while, so that, things remain fresh. And I don't know, I feel for Delhi. I think they've been so close for so long that can they put it together? It'll be terrific for them. Even Punjab, for heaven's sake, couldn't have been closer than they were last year. So a new winner, please, for me.
And Abhinav, who are you backing?
I'm actually inclined to go with Charu, because I love the idea of a new winner. Mumbai Indians look really, really strong on paper. So do RCB. But I like Shreyas Iyer and his captaincy skills, and his conversations with Ricky Ponting are very nice to watch. They have a lovely camaraderie going between the two of them. So I'm going Punjab Kings this year. Why not?
Well, that's it for this week's Stumped. My thanks to Charu and to Jim, and of course to you for joining us. Goodbye for now.